Good morning. My name is Ndubisi Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to consider the concepts, definitions, and basic concepts of economics. As we all know, economics is necessary to mankind because every decision we make in this life boils down to economics. There is no, there are virtually no definite decision we can make without linking it to economic situation, though they may at first seems to be non-economic, but in the long run, everything boils down to economics. So man cannot waive the concept of economics away without daily paying for it. That is why the subject of economics is quite crucial if man must continue to make rational decisions about his environment and how to allocate scarce resources. As we all know, the resources are scarce relative to their demands and wants of human beings. So, if we consider the cause of the subject of economics, it is quite an incontrovertible, recurring issues in man's attempt to dominate his environment. Needless to add that a proper understanding of this very subject matter is very important if man must continue to make rational decisions. So we want to consider certain definitions given by scholars in the field of economics. Let's start with that of Adam Smith, who is termed the father of the modern economics. In his book published in 1776, that book was titled The Wealth of Nations. Adam Smith sees economics as an inquiry into the nature and causes of wealth of a nation. His definitions, he saw economics as a science that explains why or how riches or wealth is being created. Let us also see a definition given by J.S. Mill. J.S. Mill saw economics as a practical science of production and distribution of wealth. While he emphasized on production and the distribution, these two concepts are key economic issues. Goods must be produced and be distributed accordingly. Alfred Marshall looked at economics as a study of mankind in ordinary business of life. Virtually everything we do in this life involves business. You are, in fact, every area, even what I'm doing now, is motivated, is business in nature. So there are so many other definitions. Paul Samuelson and all that they have given several definitions, but there is one definition that we always see as most widely accepted definition of economics. That definition was given by Lionel Robbins. Lionel Robbins' definition, he defined economics as a science, as a social science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. This definition encapsulated some key words which explains the basic concepts of economics. First of all, we look at economics first as a science. He saw economics as a science. Which type of science? A social science. Of course, science has been defined as an objective and disinterested search after truth, involving systematic formulation and arrangement of knowledge. However, economics is a science because it is based on facts. Facts must be collected and analyzed before conclusions are drawn. However, owing to the fact that human beings are focus of our study, there tends to be some hedges when carrying out the systematic science. Therefore, he sees economics as a social science, not like physical science or natural sciences. This one studies human behavior. It studies human being. And this human behavior is channeled in one aspect, that's his behavior, his how he will relate between ends and scarce means. Let's move down. It's not an exact science. It's not an exact science. So the two things this particular science is interested is how human being behaves between ends and scarce means. By ends and scarce means, Professor Robbins means that man's wants are numerous, but the resources to satisfy these numerous wants are limited. So ends there talks about wants, numerous wants, unlimited wants. But the challenge there is that resources to satisfy these unlimited wants are themselves limited, which he termed scarce means. So the relationship, which is the most important thing, is that our wants are unlimited, whereas the resources to satisfy these unlimited wants are themselves limited. So man must find a way to allocate resources in such a way that his unlimited wants will be satisfied accordingly with the limited resources. However, Robbins understands that these resources have alternative uses. By alternative uses, he meant to tell us that resources are convertible, that there is convertibility in resources. This means that resources can be employed to satisfy one end or the other. So, economics is a science that studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means, which have alternative uses. There are branches of economics, but economics is divided into two broad branches: micro and macroeconomics. Micro and macroeconomics. The microeconomics deal with individual units of the economy. Individual units of the economy, talking about the households and the business firms. The household and the firms, individual units of the economy. These usually relate to households or firms. It study it studies distinct units by laying emphasis on behaviors of unit of households and firms. That is microeconomics. Whereas on the other hand, the macroeconomic studies aggregates. It's an aggregated aspect of economics. It study the entire economy, study concepts like the gross domestic products, gross national products, inflation, unemployment rate, and all the rest of them. So economics captures micro and macro. Of course, it is the aggregation of the micro units that makes up the macro economics. So, in studying economics, we are interested in the techniques that is employed in studying economics. In, there are two major methods of studying economics: the inductive and the deductive reasoning. Of course, if you want to look at the inductive reasoning or induction, this is a method of inquiry used in economics which involves studying a particular phenomenon and using that particular phenomenon to generalize about the entire population. You start from the minute and then enlarge it, generalize. Let's take, for instance, we're studying a state, making a case study. Maybe we're studying behavior of consumers in a particular state. We can, from our findings, then generalize that human beings behaves in certain country. This is the behavior of people because we have studied a minute part of that economy and we now use it to generalize. Such method of reasoning is called inductive reasoning or induction. The second one is deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is the earliest form of reasoning in economics. It involves starting from the general and then narrowing it down to a particular viewpoint. It involves making deductions from a general behavior and using it to make conclusions on a particular phenomenon, actually on how a particular phenomenon actually behaves. Thank you very much. We'll continue with positive and normative economics.